Hello there, boys and girls, and welcome to Pug History Chronicles. I'm your host, Professor Lee Pugsworth III Esquire. In today's episode, we will be exploring the histories behind the little-known American holiday, Juneteenth, America's true Independence Day. Also known as Freedom Day, Emancipation Day, and Jubilee Day, it is celebrated on June 19th. On that day in 1865, General Gordon Granger and his 2,000 Union Army soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced the Emancipation Proclamation, enforcing the abolishment of slavery in Texas. The occasion marked the official end of the Union's military campaign during the Civil War, as it was the westernmost area in the former Confederate States. Upon hearing the news, newly freed people began to sing and dance and held impromptu parades through the streets of Galveston. And from that day forward, June the 19th was commemorated each year to celebrate America's true Independence Day. The Emancipation Proclamation came into effect on January 1st, 1863, and designated that all slaves in Confederate states were to be freed. The Confederate states, however, refused to acknowledge the measure until the Union Army forced its will upon them on a local level. By the end of the Civil War, Texas was home to the majority of the enslaved people in America. Enslaved people in several parts of America, including Maryland and Delaware, were not truly freed until the 13th Amendment passed on December 18th, 1865, a full 6 months after the original Juneteenth in Galveston. The first Juneteenth celebration was a year after General Granger's proclamation on the balcony of the Ashton Villa, which had served as Confederate headquarters for the vast majority of the Civil War. Former Texas slave owners attempted to prevent Juneteenth celebrations by restricting the use of public lands to people of color. But many black communities throughout Texas bought their own private land to be used as public spaces. Most famously was Emancipation Park, when in the 1870s, a group of former slaves led by the Reverend Jack Yates raised $800 to purchase 10 acres of land and created Texas's first public park for people of color. Many aspects of Juneteenth celebration have become traditions, as black Americans would dress to exquisite fashion, peacocking as it were, as a form of protest against local laws, meant to force black Americans to dress in meager clothing or rags. Another large tradition was food and drinks that were red in color, to symbolize the blood spilt during enslavement. Some of these items were red cakes and pies, watermelon, red soda, and hibiscus tea, which was also a historical choice because hibiscus tea was traded to the Americas during the Triangle slave trade. Other traditions of the past included hosting rodeos, playing baseball games, fishing, dancing, and of course, cookouts and barbecue with friends and family. Juneteenth is one of many Emancipation Day celebrations in the United States, due to all states being brought back to the Union during different dates, and the Union Army marched southwest through the Confederate states after the Confederate surrender. However, Juneteenth has become one of the largest and most significant American Emancipation Day celebrations, due to Texas being one of the largest concentrations of enslaved people in the states. Another factor in the growth of the celebration were the Great Migrations, by which black American families fled the Jim Crow South in the early and mid-20th century, bringing their Juneteenth traditions with them to northern cities. Another event which contributed to the celebration and acknowledgement was the 1968 Poor People's March on Washington, D.C. This event gathered Americans from all over the country. Organizers celebrated and introduced the Juneteenth holiday and its celebrations to a national group, who in turn took those celebrations back with them, spreading Juneteenth holiday on a much more national level. Currently, however, 47 American states celebrate or recognize the Juneteenth or Emancipation holiday. The states that don't acknowledge the holiday are North Dakota, South Dakota, and Hawaii, which don't matter much anyway. For one thing, this distinguished dog thinks that all Americans should honor and celebrate America's true Independence Day. Happy Juneteenth, friends. This episode of Pug History Chronicles has been brought to you by E.E. Ward Moving and Storage, the oldest African-American owned business in the United States. If Ward can, then I can. This is Lee Pugsworth III Esquire, signing off. Stay safe and bark lightly.